Hey, what is up? Welcome to this featured Friday episode of the Wantrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian Lofermento, and you are in for a real treat today because I've got an awesome conversation with not only an incredible person who is incredibly talented at what he does, but a really cool entrepreneurial story, taking his natural talents and sharing them with the world. I'm so excited to dive into my conversation today with Shiva Oswal. I'm going to tell you just a little bit about Shiva, but then we're going to dive into his story from him firsthand. So Shiva is a 19-year-old computer science major at Carnegie Mellon University. He's originally from California. He, from an early age, was fascinated with computer programs, the power of algorithms, and the immense influence wielded by big tech companies like Apple and Google. His earliest claim to fame is that in 2017, when he was just 13 years old, he appeared on the game show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, where he became the youngest contestant ever to win $250,000. And on the show, he told host Chris Harrison that one day he wanted to be a computer scientist. So fast forward today, and Shiva is the founder of Recursive Dragon, which is a private company specializing in algorithmic programming coaching. If you're sitting there thinking about your business, wait until you hear about Shiva's journey. I'm not going to say anymore because I'm way too excited to dive into my interview today with Shiva Oswal. All right, Shiva, officially welcome to the Wantrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast.
Hello, thank you, Brian.
I am so excited to dive into so many different parts of your story and your entrepreneurial journey, and obviously your zone of genius when it comes to programming and sharing it to others. But first things first, I've read your bio, but fill in the gaps for listeners. Who is Shiva?
Yeah, thank you. So, I was born in the Bay Area. I grew up in a pretty techie household. I was surrounded by tech. I was born in, the Silicon Valley area, where all the big tech companies were slowly emerging when I was growing up, like the late 2000s, early 2010s. And yeah, this was a pretty transformational time for tech, I think, late 2000s, early 2010s. And I guess exposed to all this, I really thought that this would be the future. I thought that tech would be the future and I saw how these companies were growing and growing in influence. Like, it was around these times that these companies like Apple and Google, they were outstripping like the big oil companies in market capitalization, and they became the biggest companies in the world around this time. And, well, I guess just more or less by pure coincidence, when I was 13, I was on a game show. I was on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, the Whiz Kids Week, which was a special week where they invited a lot of kids like me from across the nation to appear on the show, get a chance of a lifetime to maybe win some real money. So I was on the show, and I answered the first 13 out of the 15 questions correctly. And then on the 14th question, the $500,000 question, I ended up walking away. So I was able to keep $250,000, which is really, really great. And that money didn't really impact me immediately as a 13-year-old, but access to that money, access to the security that money would offer me would eventually, I guess, kickstart my eventual entrepreneurial dreams, because I would know that worst comes to worst, I would always have that money to fall back on, and I could, explore my technical aspirations and maybe try and create something really, really epic.
Yeah, I love that. And obviously, we're going to dive deep into the world of Recursive Dragon. I'm so excited for you to share with listeners firsthand what Recursive Dragon does and how you guys are shaping the industry and reshaping minds and the way that people think. I love so much of what your mission is. But I think before we get there, we really have to back up and talk about the whole world of competitive programming and all of this stuff that really lit your passion, which led, of course, to Recursive Dragon.
Yeah, thank you. So, what is competitive programming? It's like something which is like sort of gotten into the mainstream recently. There was a Google DeepMind project that tried to do competitive programming with AI. It wasn't very good. But it was still better than maybe like the average competitive programmer, but not relative to, the top level. Competitive programming, though, really went mainstream due to the tech companies. It was due to the tech companies. There was Google. Google has a yearly code jam which has thousands of participants and is heavily funded by Google. Facebook has a hacker cup. And fundamentally, all these companies utilize competitive programming in their technical interview process, which is why competitive programming has become so relevant to so many computer scientists looking for jobs in big tech. But to really dive into what it is, competitive programming is the task of designing efficient and correct algorithms to solve simple programming problems. So, for example, you're going to be given a programming task with constraints, like given an array of numbers. Maybe you have to do something to that array, like sort that array and maybe a classic problem would be find the longest increasing subsequence, which a lot of complicated terms I know, but longest is just longest. Increasing is in that array, elements in that array which are increasing, and subsequence is just elements in the array in an order, right? So a subsequence of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 would be 2, 3, 5, right? Because those are elements from the array in that order. So how would you find the longest increasing subsequence of an arbitrary array? Well, that would be a classic competitive programming task. And I won't dive into the very nitty-gritty details, but that problem can be solved there are many ways to solve the problem. Some are faster than others. And in competitive programming, you usually want to create the fastest solution that can pass within a time limit. So this is basically what competitive programming is. Let me briefly talk about how I got into it, though. In high school, my friends exposed me to something called the USA Computing Olympiad, which is the premier high school competitive programming contest. It's run by the national organization, the USACO organization. It's sponsored by some of the New York quantitative firms like D.E. Shaw and so on. And yeah, it's divided into 4 divisions: the bronze, the silver, the gold, and the platinum division. And as you solve harder problems, do well in their contests, you get promoted from division to division. And yeah, I guess I went on that journey. I embarked on that journey in my high school career. I just got better and better at competitive programming. I practiced, I continued to practice. I started in the bronze division like everyone else. And by the end of my high school journey, I reached the top 10 in the United States in the platinum division, which was pretty impressive. And yeah, now I'm in college. I no longer do USACO since I'm no longer in high school, but I still know a lot, and I'm excited to participate in the other competitive programming contests that are still available, such as the Google Code Jams of the world and so on.
Yeah, I love that overview. So much to dive into, Shiva, but I think the most important aspect to call out to listeners right now is we so often take for granted what the world of big tech, what it's powered by. And you're right, at the root of so much of it is programming. Programming is what's fueling big business in Silicon Valley and at every big company all around the world. And so it's fascinating for me as the host of the Entrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast to talk to you as someone who is a small business owner, who is the CEO of a growing business in such an important industry that doesn't always get the attention because we reap the benefits without fully understanding it as end consumers. So it's interesting to hear your perspective there. I want you to talk about your actual business now. Tell us what Recursive Dragon does within this world. And I'd love for you to go into, for the listeners' sakes, both aspects of it, of both the high school aspect of competitive programming like you just talked about, but also the job interviews at these big tech companies.
Exactly. So these are two basically related but distinct spheres that my company Recursive Dragon focuses on. So our team, some of our team specialize in USACO. They specialize in the high school contest, and we offer private one-on-one lessons to prepare students for success in the USACO. We work with students usually for months to many months to even a couple of years. Some students we work for their entirety of their high school journey, and we just help them prepare for the USICA. We help them practice. We go over hundreds of problems with them. We go over many, many algorithms, data structures, techniques, problem-solving techniques, and so on, right? So we help prepare the students for the USICA. And they do the competitions, and many of them do really well on them. But on the other hand, our very related side of a business, but slightly different, is we help more generally older students, for example, college students, but also professionals. People who already have jobs, maybe are looking for new jobs. We in the tech sphere, they're commonly called job hoppers, who are looking to go from one tech job to the next, like maybe some position at Google to some position at Hudson River to like maybe some position in Facebook and whatever, right? And these companies, driven by Google, which sort of defined what the technical interview looks like for modern tech companies. So it was all driven by Google. But these interviews generally consist of a couple of algorithmically based questions where interviewees have to basically solve the question with an interviewer, meaning that they're given some algorithmic problems and they have to basically solve them with an interviewer. The interviewer and they have to explain their solution to their interviewer. The interviewer will critique them. They have to explain what their code does. They have to explain how their code works. And they ultimately, of course, has to be correct for them to do well in the interview. And the logic behind this, of course, is that companies believe that if potential applicants to their jobs can explain their code well, write efficient code, write clean code, they'll probably be a good fit for their job because they're hiring premier software engineers to write the big new programs of the new era, right? They're hiring software engineers who will write the new revolutionary programs. Like Google is constantly creating new programs. It's not just maintaining its old programs. It's constantly creating new programs, and it's looking for the best of the best software engineers to build them. And they want people who can write correct and efficient code. And yeah, this is how our company comes in. We help software engineers who are maybe familiar with some aspects of programming, but less familiar with competitive programming, which is basically a snapshot of programming. It's like a good analogy would be like how chess puzzles are to chess, right? Chess is a very complicated game, but puzzles are an important aspect of the game. And that's sort of the analogy I draw between competitive programming and real-life programming you'll see in a technical job. So we help prepare potential applicants to these very high-paying jobs, 6-figure, 7-figure paying jobs, to crush their technical interviews. Usually it's 3 to 4 weeks. Usually these people work with us for 3 to 4 weeks of more intense practice. We go through a large set of interview preparation questions from websites like LeetCode and so on, and we help people be the most prepared so that when they finally are in the interview, they have the highest chance of success in getting their job, landing their job.
Yeah, I love the way that you broke that down, Shiva, for quite a few reasons. But the thing that I can't help but think as you gave us that overview of where your company fits in this broader ecosystem is that, one, the subject matter may be super complex. And for listeners who are tuning into this and saying, wow, Shiva, clearly you are very brilliant when it comes to programming. I don't understand any of that. The thing that strikes me is number two, which is, but actually the business fits into the ecosystem in a very simplistic way. You've identified a very clear need in the marketplace, and that's what I so respect about your business. And to call out some of your early success so that listeners understand it, not only are you growing your team, you are at 5 part-time employees excluding yourself, but you're also rapidly growing your customer base. You've got 25 full-time clients. I know you've got plans to scale up to 100 clients, $500,000 in revenue a year next year is what your target is. I'd love for you to take us behind the scenes into the specifics of that, because to me, It's really, actually, I'm going to split it into two different conversations. First and foremost, I want to talk about the client side, because you're actually finding these clients in a really niche area that is a highly technical field. Talk to us about that process.
Yeah, thank you. So I guess I first got into this. I used to work for another company. There's another private coaching company out there based in the Bay Area. I used to work for them. I used to work as a USICO mentor for them. And I would use my expertise in USICO. I would teach students USICO. And this sort of exposed me to a little bit about the industry. I learned sort of both the inner and outer workings of how this industry worked, how people were able to, find clients, both parents who were interested in their kids' success in USICO, as well as just how you would grow such a business. I learned sort of from the inside out working with a company called Breakout Mentors. And then from what I learned at Breakout Mentors, I decided to do this myself. And I just I started completely by myself with no employees. And I started with a small customer base that I was able to pick up from an online site called Wyzant, which is like a tutoring site where you can basically register yourself as a tutor and pick up clients. So I started with a very small client base, just me. And then I just sort of placed myself in this niche. As you mentioned, I created a website. I began advertising on various websites. I did, you can say, the work of search engine optimization, buying Google ads, buying ads, LinkedIn ads, connecting, reaching out. Word of mouth was, of course, really, really important, because in the Bay Area, especially where a lot of my clients are based, word of mouth is super important. Because in the Bay Area, I think everyone in the tech sphere, there's probably at most 3 degrees of separation between everyone in the Bay Area in the tech sphere. So that was super, super helpful. Word of mouth was super helpful. And then as we kept on adding clients, I just contacted my friends, both my friends from the competitive programming world and friends of mine who were at this university, Carnegie Mellon, and we just slowly added them to the team to increase our demand, to basically meet our growing demand. And I guess what I've noticed is at a certain point, there's a little bit of a snowball effect. Once you reach a certain amount of clients, like not 5 is definitely not enough, but once you start to reach 20, 25, and so on, the clients like the work that you're doing. They like that they are getting where they need to go, and word of mouth sort of takes in, right? One client tells 2 of his friends, who tell 4 of their friends, and before you know it, there's, a steady stream of new customers. Even when people, leave the company because they've met all their goals, new customers come in. So right now, we have not had any serious shrinking in the customer pool. And this has especially been helped by the fact that both USICO has been growing. Like 3 years ago in 2019, before COVID, USICO maybe had like 5,000 active competitors. But now in 2023, that's gone up to, I'd say, about 15,000 active competitors, maybe like 14,000 active competitors, I think, something around there. So the growth has been enormous. And of course, as USICO has gone mainstream in the high school community, of course, the need for coaches to help people prepare as efficiently as possible has also skyrocketed as well. And the same thing has happened with tech companies as well. I think interviews are getting harder. So people are like, the old resources from like 2015 are no longer adequate. I need more customized help. I need newer resources, essentially, because the interviews from 2015 are way, way different from the interviews in 2023 when they first started, right? There's just, difficulty has gone up because I guess demand has gone up, right? So coaching has become more and more relevant now than ever, I believe.
Yeah, I love hearing your thought process when it comes to those things, because you mentioned growth a few times, and obviously growth is not only the objective of running a business, but it is something that we all grapple with in a million different ways. And one of those ways is hires. And that's why I said I really want to split it into 2, because I am curious from your perspective as someone who's technically gifted at what you do, as someone who is very interested in furthering what the impact of your company also is. But now you're a business owner, Shiva. Now you are responsible for hiring people, for onboarding them, for making sure that they are also presenting Recursive Dragon in the way that you want them to and delivering your customers results. What has the hiring process been like for you? You mentioned obviously you're in the field, so you know people who are just like yourself, but have you run into any challenges there? How have you been onboarding them? I'd love to hear your insights there.
Yeah, that's a great question. So right now, I'm fortunate. My team is pretty small. It's 5 coaches plus myself, so 6 total coaches. And then I hired a part-time SEO to help me with our SEO, and that's about it. So it's like 7 total people on our team. And so the one advantage of having a small team compared to other companies which have thousands of employees is with a small team, I can handle all hires. I can handle all performance reviews. I can make sure that every client is satisfied with their mentor, and I don't have to, there's essentially no disconnect at all. Like, I can always make sure that everything is going smoothly between the mentors and the people they're working with. I can make sure that the mentors are happy with how their clients are doing. The clients are happy with how their mentors are teaching. And so I can guarantee satisfaction on both ends. But in initially recruiting the mentors, I essentially started with only 7 people. I haven't yet expanded out of my core, just contact base, like just people I know on LinkedIn, people I know just from the Usico community. There are people I've known for several years who did Usico with me and were similarly highly rated, like top 20, top 10 in the nation. And they are also really excited to join this team because they also recognize the potential of Recursive Dragon. So right now we haven't really expanded beyond, I could say my inner network of Usico, of basically my friends from Usico in high school, most of whom are now in college, like Columbia and Carnegie Mellon and Berkeley and so on. And also just my network of college friends I've picked up at Carnegie Mellon. Like, I'm at Carnegie Mellon right now. I'm a CS major there. There's also a lot of brilliant CS majors here. So I have reached out to some of them, and a lot of them have also joined our team as well.
Yeah, I love that, Shiva. And I love the fact that you are tapping into your personal network, which in so many ways, for all of you listening all around the world, it goes to show that when you've got your finger on the pulse of your community, of your industry, you see how much easier all of these things become. You see how Shiva talks about onboarding new hires because of his network. You see how he talks about finding clients because he's tapped into that community, and how to him, the whole Silicon Valley community is small because he's so connected to it. So Shiva, I love those insights from you. I'm very curious, as someone who comes from such a technological background, as well as having worked at a company similar to what Recursive Dragon does now, what has been the most surprising part of the entrepreneurial journey for you as you've transitioned to not only those things, those hats that you've always worn, but now you're a boss, now you're an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so this might sound crazy, but the most surprising thing has been, maybe I just chose the correct business model. Maybe I just chose the correct niche. But the most surprising thing has been how easy it's been to grow. Like, this is maybe not words you would expect, but how easy it's been. Like, I have not had to dig to the bottom of the earth to find new clients. Like, I just have a website. I've reached out to placed some ads here and there, put ads on the Usico website, and I just get more or less once every 2 days, I get a new client request, and they just contact me over email. We schedule a consultation. I demonstrate how I can help them, and 90% of the people who reach out to me love the work we do, and they work with us usually for several months. So it's been, I guess it might sound crazy, but once you find your correct niche, you find what you're good at, what you think there's room for a new business to occupy, just go for it. Make your name well known, place ads. People will contact you, as I guess we've seen here from Brian contacting me for this podcast. And just do what you love, and it's going to be surprisingly easy. It's going to be surprisingly easy to grow at a pretty normal pace and get new clients, slowly grow. And the growth has been incredible. In like 6 months, I went from just myself to 5 other employees, right? So the growth has been incredible. It's been steady, but it's been super solid. And the way, and we still haven't tapped into the full Usica market. We still haven't fully deployed all our ads yet. So once we do everything, I can imagine that we're going to have we're going to get even more clients, even more mentors working on our team, and it's only going to go up from here, I think.
Yeah, Shiva, so many things I love about what you just said, but the thing that puts the biggest smile on my face is that not only did you say that growth has been easy for you, but I think you did an incredible job at isolating why it's been so easy, which is you found a niche, you found a real need in the marketplace, and you didn't complicate things. You simply entered and filled the gap that's already there. So for so many entrepreneurs, and especially all of you entrepreneurs listening to this right now, listen to how simply Shiva has filled in an already existing need. He didn't reinvent the wheel. He isn't trying to be something that he's not. He literally is solving a need that he knows firsthand exists in the marketplace. So Shiva, really good insights there. You've introduced us to so many different things here in today's episode. So I want to thank you for that. You've introduced us to the world of competitive programming, but I also want to open the floor for you, for people. I know you're super active on LinkedIn. I know that you've got an awesome website that goes over what you do. So I'd love to open the floor for you to tell listeners where they can follow Recursive Dragon, follow you, and see all the awesome work that you're doing.
Yeah, the best place to contact us is contact us on our website. It's recursivedragon.com. You can contact us through our website, or just follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter is at UsicoDragon. We're not super active on Twitter, but definitely the best place is the website. The website has all our socials. It has all our upcoming contact information, all our upcoming lesson plans, and other potential workshops we're going to be doing. So just contact us through our website. Go to our website. It's recursivedragon.com.
All right, awesome. So you all heard it from Shiva directly. As always, you do not have to memorize that link. Wherever it is that you're tuning into today's episode, check the show notes, check the description of this episode, and we are linking to recursivedragon.com. I highly recommend go check it out. From a business perspective, it's so impressive what Shiva and his team are building. And also just from an entrepreneur's perspective, you'll see how focused on the mission that Shiva is in his copy, in the way that he presents, and the way that he speaks to his ideal clients. So definitely go check out recursivedragon.com. Otherwise, Shiva, thank you so much for joining us here today on the Wantrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Brian. It was an honor to be here.